All right. Thank you all for coming to this Left Hand Right Brain. We are here joined by Royce Roeswood, local writer, local actor, local playwright. I mean, writing, does it cover it all?
I am an actor. I used to do improv. Storyteller maybe is like
storyteller
maybe like the overarching
like
thing.
Yeah. We're here to talk about his new book. Oops. I Broke the Wizard's Android. No, I was thinking like, it's got to be said funnier than you do at the beginning. I mean, you're like, oops, I broke the wizard's Android. I listened to the audiobook, which I enjoyed.
Great.
But I mean, awesome. I was thinking like, no, the oops has to be bigger. I guess I'm not trying to give you direction, but I'm like, I don't know. I like the oops. Maybe we could fix that in a future iteration.
I will go
10th
back.
anniversary.
I will take that clip of you making that sound.
Oops.
And I will put that as the end of every sentence in the book.
Well, maybe just the start and the end. Let's not go crazy. Paperback right here. Got it. Broke the Wizard's Android. A fun romp through Middle Earth. I got Lord of the Rings on the mind. You've been watching Rings of Power?
Very I have not. I don't have whatever it's on.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Well, maybe someday.
Yeah.
You don't get Amazon delivered?
No, we don't have Prime.
You like getting out of the bubble
of
simplicity, ease in life.
I mean, it's just
the rat race.
I mean, we've already got, what do we pay for? We pay for the Disney Plus subscription.
Well, I mean, it comes with the Amazon, I was just thinking about Amazon getting Amazon deliveries. As a, a parent, you think it'd be your friend.
I don't know. I don't order. I order stuff occasionally, but not often enough for me to be like, oh, I want to be paying monthly for free shipping. It's just never occurred to me.
All right. No worries there. I mean, we're getting, sorry, a little off topic.
No worries.
But go ahead. Give us a little synopsis of the book for the
okay. It's about, the short version is, it's about a wizard's apprentice who gets replaced by an android. It's sort of taking these fears and anxieties around artificial intelligence, replacing people's jobs, and putting it in a fantasy context. So it's fun. There's magic and there's technology, and and there's another
your
product.
Tarot deck.
Yes,
as well as we spoke about this on one of the last podcasts we did. Very interesting. I do encourage the listener to go back and check that out.
Yeah,
but you used your tarot, aka magic.
Yes,
connection to the dark side.
Yes, and then I also used AI to write the book.
Right, throwing it out there right on Front Street.
Oh yeah, we're talking about it today. So it's a book about AI and magic that I wrote using AI and magic.
Yeah.
Because I thought that would be interesting, thematic. It was a way for me to engage with these tools and like understand them and like see what they were capable of, while also kind of processing my own feelings about artificial intelligence and in the story. So and then of course I've got my trusty tarot deck helps me come up with ideas.
Which you made, by the way, Tarot the Trunk.
Yes.
Also in the book, at the end, you say you have a little a doll guardian of your trunk, which is terrifying to me.
Yeah.
Not only do you have a tarot deck, which is Gateway to Hell, you have a voodoo doll.
You should see it too. You would be creeped. It's got a little skull.
What?
It's got like beads. Oh yeah.
I can't believe you're so into that. That doesn't terrify you.
No, I mean it's part of when I talk about in the statement of tools, like it was disclosing, these tools and like talking about, and I thought it would be interesting to kind of share more details, and sort of
links to Satan. No, I'm just joking. I'm just because raised Catholic, in my mind.
Well, the devil is in the book.
He is actually
write about the devil.
Well, a devil.
A that's right.
It's interesting. There's multiverse things, kind of.
Yes, a devil. I just wanted to share more details about it and sort of how I think about it. Because as I say, so I wrote this book, and then at the end, I put this, what I call the statement of tools, where I talk about, here's the AI I used, here's how I used it, here's how much I used, which was very little in the end. And then here's the tarot that I used, and here's how I think about it. And the thing that happened, to me, the most interesting thing that happened in the process was thinking about artificial intelligence, and then using this pretty cardboard on the same level as this artificial intelligence, right? I'm using both of these tools.
So you're saying the tarot deck is pretty cardboard.
Yeah. And so starting to think about the tarot deck as an artificial intelligence. And some people do think about it this way. They think there's a spirit behind the deck. They think there's a force behind the deck. And if you're drawing cards, you're communicating with something, another presence. I wouldn't say that I believe that, but what I did find was if I thought about it in that way, if I thought about, oh, I'm not just drawing a random card, right? If this is a code I need to decipher. This is a message I need to interpret.
Yeah.
That helped me
linking to the muse in a different way, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. And you sort of get this sudden kind of spooky sense that there is something kind of helping you, guiding you, kind of pointing you to interesting information.
Possessed, maybe, huh?
I wouldn't say that.
There was a second presence in the room.
But just in the same way that I think any creative person sort of you get these ideas that come from
kind of flow state. Some people call it maybe.
Yeah. They come through. This was like just an externalization of that process of like, where's this idea coming from? Well, it's coming from this picture that I'm looking at right now and thinking about in the context of this question that I have about the novel. Then you have this idea and you're like, oh, that's so interesting. And it sort of opens up this whole vista to explore as you write. So yeah, I mean, that was, and as I say in the statement, the tarot was more in the end. Like if I had to pick between what I would use, if I could only use the AI or if I could only use the tarot going forward, I would pick the tarot. It was more useful, I felt, because it just helped me engage in the creative process in a way that generated results that were more interesting.
No, I don't think anybody would argue or have a problem with you using the tarot deck as a creative tool.
Well, some people might.
Christians.
No, I'm just, who knows?
But the AI thing, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
The AI thing is way more controversial than the tarot deck.
Right. As I discovered in some of my early reviews that came through. And I don't know to what extent I anticipated the backlash would be. And like, to be clear, I used the book is 97% human written, like by me. Like I used AI a little bit to come up with some ideas. And then there's some passages that are like partially generated that I then went, just like you do with every first draft, you go back and rewrite, but I underestimated the
prejudice,
the prejudice, the level of vitriol that I would get for one, not only using it, but then disclosing.
Right. Because there are some people who are using it, but they won't disclose.
That's a big conversation in the AI author community is, do you disclose? And like, I went back to them and was like, hey, I'm getting these reviews. And like the majority of the review responses that I was getting was like, yeah, that's why I don't disclose. That's why I don't tell people. So like, I am sure these readers who read my book and in some cases enjoyed it and even said they enjoyed it in their 1-star review.
Right.
They said, engaging read. I recommend it. Used AI, 1 star.
But the 1 star is because of the use of AI.
Because of the AI,
because AI is even in the sentence.
Yeah.
They're like Trumpers. They're like,
I
stand behind this thing and I'm against this other thing.
They have a really, really specific
That was my
idea.
thing. Royce didn't say that.
They have a really specific idea about what this technology is and what it means that I obviously disagree with. If I thought it was unethical to use it, I wouldn't use it. But I am sure that these same readers, if they're reading any number of new books that are coming out, are reading other books that are AI assisted and just don't know. But because I chose to disclose, I'm getting the flack.
Right.
But like I disclosed on purpose because I thought it was, thematically related to the content of the book. It's a book about artificial intelligence and the way it's kind of seeping into our culture and our lives. The book is about a lot of things, but that's one of the things that it's about. And so I'm sort of engaging with the tool in that way.
It's funny just because when we talked a couple episodes ago, you were talking about using the AI and things. And when we put in a joke, you know, and I've been doing that every now and then.
Yeah.
Just to help, get the creative juices flowing or like see what direction this might take it versus where I would have taken it. And it's like, yeah, I don't use it verbatim, you know, and I've really taken maybe there's some fun turns of phrases I'll get, you know, from the AI or something I wouldn't have thought of.
Exactly.
Like in my witch bit or something, we talk about we don't have sage, so I have to go on a quest to a supernatural farmer's market to get sage. And supernatural farmer's market, that phrase came from the AI.
That's fine.
Because I was just saying Whole Foods.
Yeah.
I have to go to Whole Foods. But the supernatural farmer's market is perfect. It's great. It fits, it works. You know, it's quirky. It's a quirky way of saying something, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think that's cheating. And that's like less than, you know, 5% of the whole bit, you know, my wife being a witch kind of a thing.
And that's the thing that cheating idea,
Quote,
you know,
unquote.
the fact that, and I think because obviously I've been thinking about this a lot, especially since I got this feedback, and I was like, you know, I'm trying to understand these feelings and anxieties around this technology.
Yeah, just to make the point, you're getting good reviews, but they're still giving you 1 star because of the AI. That's kind of
some of them.
Okay.
Some of them are, I didn't like the book anyway, and he used AI, so
okay, yeah.
Right. And then there are reviews who just like it. They don't mention it at all. And then there's been a few reviews that are like, oh, how clever to write a book about AI using AI. 4 stars. You know, like
nice.
You know, so like it's kind of the whole gamut.
But these are all on Amazon, or where are these reviews?
So I used a service called NetGalley.
Okay.
Which is traditionally like the big traditional publishers. This is the service that they use to get reviews before a book comes out.
Okay.
And for a long time, this was inaccessible to independent publishers. It was just too expensive, too prohibitive. But now, or I say now, it's been around for a decade. There's what's called
recent history.
I mean,
recent
in
literary
publishing
history.
In publishing, 10 years is a lifetime ago.
Oh, really?
I mean, the technology,
it's moving that quickly.
Technology is changing. I mean, with self-publishing and now ebooks and now, like it all changes. So it's changing so fast.
Interesting.
But anyway, I was able to get and be a part of what's called a NetGalley co-op. So I could just pay a smaller fee, a very affordable fee actually, for the service that I got. And it's a whole bunch of other self-published writers, and we all just take turns. We get like a little slot. So I got like a month. It's actually still going. People can still get it on NetGalley, depending on when this comes out. Maybe not by next week, but
yeah, it'll be.
Yeah,
a week or two.
Doesn't matter. And so they get a free copy of the ebook or the audiobook in exchange, theoretically, for review. Not everybody leaves reviews.
Okay.
But there's also like librarians on there who are looking to like add books to their collection. There are booksellers who are looking to add books to their collection. You know, they just want to see like what's coming through. So that's where the most of these reviews are coming from, is that early review service.
And they'd have a lot more skin in the game, I guess, that when it would come to like AI's taking over art kind of a thing.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, people, whatever. Anyway. Oh, so where was I talking? We were talking about this fear and this anxiety.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I wanted to get the
where these reviews are coming from. We're talking about cheating.
Oh yeah.
You know, and people accusing me of like, oh, I didn't really write the book. I was like, well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but I did.
Right. Yeah.
I spent a year on it.
Typing out the words. I
typed out the words. It took me like a year. You know, I spent like hundreds of hours on this thing.
And a year is actually pretty quick for a book turnover for you.
Yeah, and actually, so it helped a little. It helped a little bit. You know,
so like when you were stuck or something, you would turn to these things.
Get an idea, or sometimes it would write like a little passage, and it'd be like, that's not very well written, but like I like the idea of where it's going, or
even like better. You said it's in the little blurb you did at the end that it made you know what you didn't want, and that really helped.
Right. I would say most of the time I did that technique where I had it continue the passage. I would say most of the time, 60% of the time, what it wrote was absolutely unusable. Like I didn't like the way it was written. I didn't like the idea of it, but it did help me clarify. Okay, not that. So, and then I would get the idea for what I would want to happen next, and that did help me keep going. And that was really the point. It was just to keep me writing, keep in that flow state. But coming back to this idea of like, oh, it's cheating. You know, I think we have this idea that art and creativity is supposed to make us suffer.
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like if we don't suffer, if we don't struggle for it, then it's somehow not legitimate creativity, or it's like not a legitimate work of art.
Yeah. If you're not bleeding on the page.
Right. And not only do I think that's not true, I think that's a really dangerous idea. And I think we've lost probably a lot of artists and aspiring artists to that belief, who they just couldn't make it and they couldn't cut it.
Well, everyone likes that romantic idea.
Exactly. And they suffered and they couldn't survive the suffering.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I'm serious.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to like laugh at it. It was just like, because it is such a prevalent thing that's like kind of ridiculous.
And so this idea that like, you know, writing a book should be hard and like anything that you do to like make it easier is somehow cheating, I absolutely disagree with, for that reason, to protect the mental health of artists. And you know, it did help, you know, it made things a little bit easier. And sometimes, you know, I got a little stuck and it helped me kind of like keep moving, keep inertia, keep that flow state. So yeah, I don't think it's cheating at all. I think people are just having a hard time adjusting to this new reality, you know, this new technology. They're not really sure what it means yet. But I would bet any writer, any artist worth their salt is looking about how they can integrate these new technologies into their workflow.
Right, right.
Because it's an opportunity, and if it's going to make it easier and going to be able to help you focus on the things that you love about the process more, right? Like, I like writing. I like putting the words on the page. I like coming up with the stuff. You know, I don't want it to write it for me because that takes the joy out of the process for me.
Right.
But sometimes I need an idea or a little thing to kind of keep going, or to like, you know, write a part that is like, oh, I know what this needs to be, but I don't really want to write. You know, I have a hard time with description. So sometimes it's nice to get little details, be like, okay, that's a great detail. That's a great sensory detail. You know, why shouldn't it be fun? Why shouldn't it be joyful?
Right. Yeah.
We don't need to suffer through this.
Sure.
So anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I listen to a lot of books on stoicism and things like that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of podcasts are saying that, like, I mean, I don't know, just like Ozempic is like is a cheat for weight loss for a lot of people. And I know cheat is a weird word. Yeah. But I mean, they're saying like, oh, you didn't build the mental fortitude or like the discipline that it'll take to like keep going with the weight loss or keep it off or whatever. That's my own thing, is relating it to the weight loss, because I'm constantly doing that. That's my own thing. But the idea that like, oh, you didn't earn it or something. I mean, it had to be hard. I mean, that's such a prevalent thing, I guess, is all I'm getting at. And like,
I mean, and here's the thing, like if somebody like goes to one of these AI tools and just has it write a novel for them and just like throws it up and self-publishes it, like that's going to be garbage. Like the author, the writer, it's still up to you and your taste and your discretion what you put in and what you don't put in.
Right.
You know, you still have to have that ear to know what's a good sentence, how's it structured, how is the scene adding to the larger narrative, right? Like it's still your call.
Yeah, there's still like a thing of like taste. It's like actual like, you know, the doing of the thing and like knowing what's going to be what you like and what you don't like.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of that.
Yeah. So I think those skills are going to be even more important, you know, whether you're actually writing that first draft or not, you know, you still have to edit it and you still have to shape it into something that adheres to your sense of what is good storytelling. Right. You know, so that skill is still important.
Yeah, it totally makes sense to me as just a tool, like you're saying. And something you talk about in the book is like, you know, this thing's just a tool. Like the android is just a tool.
Right. That's something that the characters grapple with.
Yeah, and the characters put they anthropomorphize the android a lot. Especially at the beginning because she was scared of it.
Yeah.
And then she sort
of has this like initial visceral reaction, this uncanny reaction to this.
Yeah, that uncanny valley thing happens.
Yeah. And that was part of like her journey is part of my journey too. Because I too was like, oh, this is really weird. This is like a weird new thing. Like, and how do I respond to this? And how do I use this? And how do I think about it? Like, is it actually like an intelligent, or is it just something that spits out helpful words back at me? You know,
helpful words.
Yeah. But then the other part of that too was there was another tool that I was using. There's a AI called Pi, just PI, and that's a relational AI, and that's geared toward like when you talk to Pi, it's like really good advice from a really good friend. Like it like honors your like feelings and like sort of drives you to like thinking about like what are things you can do about how you're feeling. And so like part of this process, like I would get stressed about this book, right? And I would go to Pi and I would like talk about and like hash it out and like get encouragement from this other AI, you know? And so that got me thinking, you know, like even if I wasn't using the AI to actually to write the book, to like actually directly assist the book, you know, would anybody have a problem if I was getting emotional support to keep writing from an AI? Would anybody have a problem with that? You know, where is the line? And I think we're going to be getting rapidly approaching a point where AI is just going to be integrated into I mean, they're putting it on the phones, they're, you know,
putting it in sex robots.
Right. And like there are I mean, maybe I don't know.
No, I heard about that. I heard that on a podcast.
I don't. Anyway,
I mean, you're going
people
to
are
your
weird.
Pi for emotional support.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you know, Her is an extreme example, but
Her, yes, yeah. Okay, great.
The movie about
no, what is it? Joaquin?
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix falling in love with his AI,
so
Siri type, you know, a person.
But anyway, and like, there's so many other industries where like lawyers are using it, you know, I'm sure accountants, you know, anything that involves like all the massive data sets is using it. And for some people, like a phrase that I saw a lot in the reviews and that I've seen in like larger discussion is like AI has no place in creativity. And it's like, why? Why should these tools be available to advance like these other industries, but not the creative industries? Right. Like, why is that sacred? Why would artists not leap at the opportunity to use a new technology and push it and see what they can make with it?
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like this is coming from people who like have never met or like don't understand creative people.
Yeah, I feel like it's people who don't want to change.
Yeah. Or have, you know, these romantic ideas about what the creative process is like. And it's just I hard disagree. And, you know, and that's what I eventually came to as I was processing all these reviews and this feedback. And I was like, well, what do I really think? Because I used this thing, you know, am I going to defend it? Am I going to change my, you know, am I going to change course?
Did you ever have any kind of wavering thing about it? Or?
I mean, that's what the last couple of weeks have been for me.
Oh, really?
As these reviews have been, I mean, I mean, I've been having anxiety tummy. Like I've been thinking about, I've been getting up, you know, sleeping poorly and just really wrestling with this because I don't know, you know, like, did I make a huge mistake? But the thing that I keep coming back to is responding to that phrase, AI has no place in creativity. And that's a hard disagree for me. Like, it is unfair and just silly to ban a technology from creatives. And if you did put the line to say, hey, creatives, you can't use that, guess what's going to happen? Creatives are going to try to find any line that they can to transgress and find a way to get around it and use it, you know,
right.
Like it just makes no sense to me. And I know and I'm involved in the discussion and I understand like the complaints and concerns that people have, especially around like the environmental impacts and, you know,
it's like the power it takes to run an
AI. Yeah. And I get all that. So like, you know, but still I'm trying to find and chart a way for creatives to be able to use these tools in an ethical, responsible way, in a way that retains and increases the joy of the creative process. Like that's where I'm at. And if it got to the point where the concerns about it were so severe that like it was draining the joy from the thing, then it would be like, okay, well then let's move on. You know,
right.
I don't think we're there yet. So anyway, while I was thinking about all of that, I wrote a book, and it's funny.
Yeah, it's fun. It's I mean, it's not. I mean, I didn't get YA immediately, but is that more the audience or she's? I mean, she's what 18, the main character.
Yeah,
okay. And I was curious of the age.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure.
It's part of it is inspired. If you've ever seen the Miyazaki film Kiki's Delivery Service,
yes,
about this young girl who goes to be like a witch in another town, and she's very young. She's like 12 or 13. She's like prepubescent. And so like that was kind of this that was kind of this model that was in my head. And as I was thinking about the book, I was like, I was just really uncomfortable with like a 12-year-old in a tower alone with this older man.
Right.
Like, and so I was like, well, at least she's 18, but it's maybe a little bit, I don't know if a little bit older for like the target demographic. And I think my ideas about what
it gave me real first Harry Potter but vibes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I mean,
like we're starting there's something happening here.
Yeah. And that's kind of that was the book that I kept coming back to.
Oh, okay.
And as I think about the future books in the series, thinking about how Harry's view of the world sort of complexifies and matures. That's how I'm also thinking about this book. Like this book, it is
she's
complex.
18, she's cooked, dude.
But she has like some really specific views about the way that the world works, and the institutions that she believes in that I think maybe are starting to change, and we're going to be exploring those threads through the next books. There's this whole idea of the wizarding academies and how this is all kind of happening in the background, but how they only admit people who have a certain potential for soulfire, for magic, and everybody else is not admitted. And then if you like misuse that power, then you're banished from, so.
And they actually stop you physically from being able to do your magic. Sorry, is this too much?
No.
Might be a spoiler podcast if just so you know.
Whatever.
People are going to
read the book.
Yeah.
And so this idea of, like who gets to decide who gets to be a wizard and why is a question that I'm really interested in. And especially the sort of the institutional power around that. And so that's something that I'm pulling through
very, very
through the next books.
Very Potter-esque. I love that.
Yeah.
There's a whole new thing to discover, and there's a bigger world to that will be revealed.
There definitely is.
I was just listening to this podcast, and they were talking about sequels and like series, and it's like when things don't give you more to do after where movies don't have anywhere to go after the original movie. So it's like, we got to make them an underdog again, or we have to like undercut everything that happened in the first movie to like do it all over again. The second one. And they're saying John Wick did a very good job of I don't know if you saw that, but there's like the whole Assassin's world that kind of gets revealed the further you get into the movies.
Yeah.
And the first one's a very personal story of him, just getting revenge kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's exciting. And it seems like, that's how you make good sequels in a good series.
And I definitely, I left some threads unresolved at the end of this book. She has a friend, Drusilla, she sort of like, she sort of falls out of contact with, and that's not really picked back up, but that's something
coven shit.
So that's something that's going to get picked back up in the second book.
Cool. Very exciting. Yeah. It's exciting.
So, part of that is just like, how much can I fit into this book? Right. And then what needs to get shunted off to the next book? And
shunted.
You got to leave some things. You got to leave some, little things for people to want to keep reading.
Do you think you have it all planned out, like J.K. Rowling obviously did, or scandal noted? But we're just talking about the work. I know it's debated.
So I know it's very soon, but I've actually already started writing the second book.
Oh, so what's next for Royce after the second book?
More books. It's just more books all the time. So, and I've thought I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on what happens in this book.
Okay.
This next book. But I am a discovery writer. Like, I don't always know everything going into it. So I'm
the George R. R. Martin way.
I don't know. Yeah. And for me, that's fun, right? To like go and, and who knows at what point in my process I might draw a tarot card and it, totally reveals some sort of new thing. And I like to leave space for that.
Yeah, I did like the way that you said that you take the tarot suggestion seriously. You're not just like, oh, this doesn't mean anything. I can still do whatever I want. It's like, no, this is a real communication from whatever, outside source.
Yeah.
And, I like that.
Yeah.
And then you said that you leave it till the end of the book to reveal to the reader that you used AI and the tarot to help write this book.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you should have put it at the beginning?
I don't know, and that's something else that I've been thinking about too, because a lot of the negative
that might
reviews,
turn off a lot of people.
Yeah, so like there was a lot of these reviews were saying you should have put that at the beginning.
Oh,
but I was thinking, like, I was putting myself in their shoes, and I was like, well, if I had disclosed at the beginning, you wouldn't have read the book,
right?
Which you said you enjoyed, so I would have deprived you of this experience and this opportunity to engage with this material, which is like, and which at the end of the day, I feel like the AI is getting way overblown on this thing, which is like, it's a very, very small part of the book.
That's the hook, though. You know,
is
I guess,
the hook.
unfortunately,
It's the hook. It is the hook.
Crook, how you're going to sink or swim by it, I guess.
Kind of make this bed for me to sleep in.
Uncomfortable.
But, you know, the other part is like, I'm not going to change any minds if I put it at the beginning. Because if you bounce off so hard, then you're not going to have that experience where you read the book and then and then at the end you get the discovery, which I meant to be more gentle than it is.
I thought it was nice.
Yeah.
But I already knew that you were doing this.
Yeah.
So
but I, think obviously people aren't having that experience. And while that's uncomfortable and while my reviews are taking a hit, I think that's probably how we have to go about it in order to change minds. Maybe not. I could be wrong about that, and I could be digging myself a hole, and I'm never gonna make.
AI's digging your hole for you. Whoa! No, I'm just joking.
And I'm never gonna make the money back that I've spent on these books. But whatever. That's that's the gamble that I made.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm still not 100% sure going forward, like what the best thing is. But
there's no right or wrong way to do it, and you chose a way that you thought would engage, or at least have the potential to get readers invested.
Yeah. So
which hopefully totally understand.
Hopefully it does.
Yeah.
So but I have been, other reviews that have come back from the audiobook, people.
That's how I listened. I was, you were against an audiobook a couple years ago.
I know.
Now you've embraced
which was so silly.
I kept saying it, but you were against it.
I don't know what. I had a hang up. I don't know what. And I think part of it was like, it's a female main character. Like I should hire an actress. Or like, I don't know. I had ideas about it. But then I was like, I've got all the equipment. I've done audiobooks for other indie authors. I'm a trained actor, for Christ's sakes. Like, why not? So I thought I would just, I would go for it. And so I do all the voices. And people seem to really be enjoying that. And I'm getting a lot of positive feedback about that aspect, at least, of the audiobook. So that's encouraging and sort of feels like there might be something there,
right.
that I can sort of have a unique. I mean, not that I'm the only actor that's ever written a book, but that's something that not every indie author can do. Not every indie author has an acting degree in however many decades.
Right.
Have
you listened to a lot of audio, or do you not?
I've listened to.
Did you listen to any to prepare for the audiobook at all or anything?
No. I didn't think about it that way. I think I just honestly, I just kind of went for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no. I mean, it sounded just like any other audio. I mean, it wasn't like it's not like a crazy formula, but
no.
Just,
I felt like I knew what I was doing.
Your book,
The big question that I didn't know recording it is if I was going to be able to pass the quality checks. I didn't know if I was going to be able to meet the quite strict standards that the platforms put forward. And so I was kind of half-assing it because I didn't know if it was just going to be wasted
too much.
and then I passed and I was like, oh, I maybe should have put a little.
What were the parameters? Just out of curiosity.
It's like there's really specific, and I don't even know if I can explain it. I know how to adjust the settings on Audacity in order to get it to meet the specifications, but I don't understand what it means.
Okay.
It has to do with
bit rates, recording rate,
bit rates, and volume, standardized volumes, and something called RMS. And so honestly, I don't know. I watched enough YouTube videos that told me like, here's how to meet the. So like, I know enough to be dangerous and to meet the requirements.
I enjoyed it. There's only one part at the end when you said something twice, but that's
somebody noted there's actually two,
but that's always happens in audiobooks.
And somebody let me know, and I was able to fix that.
Oh, okay.
And it's definitely updated on, if you buy direct from me on the Ragamancer's website. The other platforms, it might take a while for those to update, but those are coming through.
Yeah, it is available on at least on Amazon. That's where I got the audiobook.
It's on Amazon.
Wherever you get books.
I don't even because there's so many platforms and there's more coming out all the time. But if you go on my link, you'll be able to see where it's available,
which is at ragamancers.com.
You can go to ragamancers.com /oops WA, which stands for Wizards and Strays. And that'll have all the links not only to my direct sales, but also to all the other platforms, and you should be able to find it there. And also, if you want a preview of the audiobook, the first 6 chapters are available on my YouTube channel, which is the Ragamancers.
Right.
YouTube.com/the Ragamancers.
Yeah. If you want me to read the book, Venmo me a bunch of money, and then I will send you an audio file of me reading the book. No, I'm just joking. So how did you go about because there's a female protagonist. Did you go and like Jim Dale in the Harry Potter books? He does McGonagall. He does all of them. He goes a little higher. My wife definitely doesn't like that when he does Hermione's voice. She says that kind of throws her out of it. It's never bothered me, but again, different perspectives.
Yeah.
Did you have any hangups? Did you think about it? Did you go through different voices?
I didn't.
Because it's basically just your voice. Right?
Yeah, I did.
You're not doing a crazy.
I think with Ninian,
the main character,
because she speaks so much, I didn't want to change it too much. I didn't want to have that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Too strong of an imprint.
Choice.
Yeah. And so I do think I pitch up a little bit.
Okay.
And I do try to think of her as sort of a young, exuberant person who's got energy because she's 18.
Yeah.
And she has ideas and she has opinions about things. And so I kind of get into that. I'm trying to do it right now. Just kind of this kind of thing. And then and then relax
the
back into the
for life
narrator.
Just comes through the voice.
Right. I mean, she's young. And that's kind of the thing. It's kind of her first kind of step out into the real world. It's a very kind of sheltered real world, and she doesn't really get very much access to it. But she's kind of stepping out. She's trying to figure out, who she is and how she fits into sort of this larger thing. So
I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Oh, great! I'm so glad.
Yeah. Like I said, it didn't. There was nothing jarring that took me out of it that I didn't recognize or know from any other audiobook. I mean, I'm a connoisseur for sure.
Yeah.
Because it is funny because you get a lot of actors doing audiobooks now, and some of the criticisms I've heard of that is like they're trying to dramatize it too much. They're trying to make everything a Shakespearean sonnet or whatever when it's even just the narration.
Yeah.
Is that something you thought about, or were you just like narration flat, or were you like,
I didn't,
and she read to the you're not doing that.
I didn't want it to be overwrought, and I tried to think about the other audiobooks that I had read or listened to, I guess. Or I read audiobooks is reading. That counts.
My buddy Ethan Everhart would argue that it's not.
Well,
because he's like, words have meaning.
He's wrong. Well, they're still words, whether you read them or listened to them.
Right. Well, he's saying the act of listening to an audiobook is not the same as reading.
He's wrong.
Well,
I mean, it's like
I argue with him about that all the time.
Yeah. It's obviously different, but it still counts.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it boils down to. He's like, he's not saying that I didn't get the knowledge in my mind or whatever, and that I'm not smarter for having read the Twilight Saga or whatever, or listened to the Twilight Saga. But which I haven't yet. I mean to, but that's always my go-to funny, like
that's the one
frivolous audiobook. But
I tried to think about sort of that narration style and it not being too overwrought. And just, at the end, just trying to tell the story, like not trying to make it more complicated. The thing that I did kind of lean into is if it's a dialogue, if it's like a character I did try to like bring, my acting, what's the previous moment, what's this character going through, what are they trying to do, how are they feeling, and then how does that all land in their voice, to try to bring something, a little bit of a performance and a little bit more storytelling to those moments. But other than that,
you did make a choice with the kitchen demon. That's like the biggest choice I feel like was made.
I love him so much. I actually am putting him in the next book because I had so much fun doing his voice that I wanted to do more for him.
Yeah, was that like Jersey?
Yeah, it's kind of like a Jersey. He's a
like,
kitchen. What are you doing here in my kitchen? Get out of here. I've got soup for brains. Yeah.
That's his catchphrase.
I had so much fun doing his voice that I made sure to put him in this next novel. So
okay, nice.
Yeah.
The audiobook. Yeah, I always like talking about that, and then the idea of self-publishing, what you did, and then working with Amazon.
Yeah.
That's something I've seen on YouTube videos and things like that with other personal authors, and I know Brandon Sanderson did a whole thing about boycotting or taking his books, or not putting any more of his new books on Audible, because he was trying to stand up for more independent writers to get a better deal. Yeah. Did you run into any of that, or like, how do you feel about that?
I'm not.
Not about Brandon Sanderson, but the way they treat new authors.
I think I know what they're talking about, and there's something about through ACX, which is their author and narrator platform. There's something there was something shady going on with like the rights and the payments. And I'm not like so fully versed in that conversation. I did decide to not go exclusive with Amazon. I did want my book to be available in lots of different places. And
Yeah, is that something you fought with? Because that's the biggest one. So you want to be
Mhm.
on the most legitimate quote unquote platform.
And I am.
Yeah,
And
you
I
are.
am.
You are. I'm not trying.
It's just
You are.
yeah. Amazon has a deal where if you're exclusive to Amazon,
Okay.
you can get access to the Kindle Unlimited marketplace, and you can get access to like some promotional opportunities there. I didn't feel like that was worth it, and I'm also sensitive to people who are concerned about Amazon's sort of dominance. So I wanted there to be options for people who didn't want to buy it there. And if I'm going, the strategy is called going wide. So you can either go exclusive or you can go wide. And I thought, if I'm going wide, I might as well go wide.
Mhm.
And so it's available on any platform that I could get access to. So yeah, and then it's
Are
also
you
available.
nervous talking about it now because you don't want
Not at
Bezos
all.
to Okay, I was
Not
just
at
curious.
all.
I was curious.
I have nothing to lose if they knocked me out. If they banned me for some reason, I would have to adjust. But what, I've made 8 sales on there so far. It's like wouldn't be hurting.
So you'd still encourage anyone to go to your website and get the book there directly?
I mean, it depends on what way you want to support me, right?
Okay.
And I probably shouldn't be giving people a choice. I probably shouldn't be making it more complicated.
Any way is good.
Yeah.
Or we thank you for it. But
Yeah.
I mean, just
if you want to
curious.
give me more money, buy it directly on my website. If you want,
you get a bigger cut of that.
I get a bigger cut. If you want to help other people find my book, buy it on a platform and leave a review on that platform.
Okay.
So it just depends on the way that you want to support me.
Just like the way you could like, rate, and review this podcast
Absolutely.
on YouTube. I mean,
ratings are so important.
Yeah, it is
I think
crazy.
People don't understand how.
But there's a reason everybody's saying that shit. It's like you got to get in there.
It's huge. So yeah, so there's that. But right now, I don't know. I'm just trying to get books out the door.
Yeah. So what would be I mean, what would be the dream? Somebody picks it up, or like a big publisher picks it up, or is that like something that would be better? I mean, how would like if you could get Harry Potter stat level?
So part of my concern,
which isn't the goal in art, but I mean, just
right.
dream. Like, how do you get that big?
I would love to be able to make a living writing these books.
Sure.
And doing the other things I do, the other products that I have. I have
tarot
decks. I have other
YouTube
oracles.
series.
I've got my YouTube series. I sort of see this all as part of different facets of the same project, which is putting the Ragamancers out there. I would love if that could be, if I could make as much doing that as I made at the most when I was acting, which the bar is low. I never made very much
before this.
Yeah, I never made that much money, so the bar is very low. But I still have a long way to go. And part of my hesitation about being traditionally published, first of all, being an actor and auditioning so much, I got really, really tired of gatekeepers. I got really, really tired of having to fight so hard to just get in the room and be seen, much less get cast. And I was just tired, and I was really, the process, the idea of like sending the manuscript out to publishers to like try to get attention felt like, the same. And based on my understanding, a lot of these publishers want to see that you already have an audience anyway. They want to see that you already have people built in that they can sell this book to you too. And I was like, well, if I'm going to put in the work of building an audience, why would I then turn that audience over to someone else and make 10% when I could make 70%?
Right.
Right. So like, obviously there's a lot more work that I have to do, and I still have to do. But so that was part of it, avoiding gatekeepers. And the second part of it is, if I self-publish, I retain the rights. So if I want to do other things, if I want to do like a board game, or if I want to do a role-playing game, it's set in this world, then that's something, that money will come back to me. Whereas if I, go with a big publisher, those rights can sometimes, depending on the contract, they might take those rights,
Right.
and now they're profiting off of my ideas. and I'm not. And part of this project is with these novels, and I have a list of so many novels I need to write that all take place in this same world, is building a universe that people are interested in and want to explore, and engage with, and not just books, but potential for games or other kinds of media to be able to engage in this fantasy world, which is called the 12,000 Worlds. That they talk about in the book.
Yeah, dude, that phrase did sound familiar.
Yes, yeah. So that was my thinking.
Where did the inspiration for the old wizard come from? It really reminded me of a certain person.
Who was that?
I'm just trying to get you to say something. Curmudgeonly old guy who doesn't want to change, but he is also interested in technology when power.
Yeah, I don't know. This was when I was doing improv all the time, I had like this curmudgeon character that would come out sometimes, this like old man, and I still don't know exactly where he comes from, but there's some part of me that carries this old curmudgeon with me.
It's kind of fun to be curmudgeonly, right?
Yeah. And so like all the characters are different aspects of me, and Salagrix, the wizard, is definitely sort of the old stuck in the mud kind of person.
Where'd you get the names? I know naming is very important. You talk about naming magic as well.
It's been Salagrix has been
AI made up that name?
No, that went way back. It used to be something slightly different, I think, but I don't remember exactly. I just wanted something that sounded weird and magical and like a little sharp.
Do you think about mouthfeel when you say these words? Or I know Tolkien talked about like Elvish having good mouthfeel.
I don't think about it as much as Tolkien thinks about it.
He was a philologist. So
yeah, he was. Yeah, I mean, he wrote the language first, so like that's what he was doing.
Wow. All right, don't say it like that. All right.
No, I'm just saying.
Respect on his name.
I'm just saying,
bro.
like that's his interest.
Now we're fighting. No,
he was more interested, in
this,
in these languages
first. He rolled his eyes. Oh my god.
Yeah. No, I just
Rawling also very good at names.
Right. Yeah.
They're like fun.
They're fun. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I
just curious about the naming thing because it's important in the book and it's important in.
It is. Names do kind of have a thing. There is a kind of a thing about names. I thought
naming something has its own power.
It has its own
book,
secret
just for
magic.
the listener.
Yeah. And then there's this idea that when you become a master wizard, they give you a new name.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so that was something that when I made that discovery, because I'd always thought of them as Salagrix, but then I was like, oh no, because they name you when you become a master wizard, you get a master wizard name. So what was his name before?
Yeah.
And that
helps like the mystery of the the book and stuff.
Yeah. And it's just interesting for me to like think about these people and then the system that like sort of takes these people and then transforms them into these other things.
Did you think about that when you named your children? Like this is going to shape their lives in a way. I
did think about it really intentionally. No, like it is. I mean, I think this is a bit morbid, but when we named, especially our eldest son, I was thinking about if something happened to me, if I died or if there was some tragedy that happened and I wasn't able to be involved in my son's life at a certain point, maybe when he's a teenager, maybe he is a little bit older, young adult, he would go looking for answers somewhere and he would only have his name to look for. So I thought, if I couldn't impart any of my values, if I could only send a name to this child I had no other interaction with them, what could I do? And he's named Sagan.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
and so I thought, the idea was, if I couldn't be involved, that would maybe eventually lead him to watch the Carl Sagan and the Cosmos series, which was big in my life. And that would give him not everything, not like the whole suite of my philosophy and life.
You'd have to come to this podcast for that.
Right. But it would give him something, it would give him some sort of direction. Now, of course, thankfully, I do get to be a part of his life and I do get to share more with him.
Later on, he's like, Carl Sagan's my real dad.
I'm whatever. Like, whatever, dude. Like, what do you got to do?
Whatever, dude. That's a Bart Simpson influence right there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so I do think about that. And I do think names do have power. And I think what you call something matters. So hopefully, that's sort of part of the magic.
Yeah, I like that.
So,
Salagrixa, because I was, naming's a big thing in Tolkien and things like that. So I always think naming is fun and interesting.
Yeah.
Just a kind of a left turn, but we were also,
sure.
before we started recording, we were talking about the rise of smut in the literary world. I feel like that's something like all my friends are all reading smut. My wife started reading smut.
Yeah.
What do we consider smut for the listener? What is smut? Romance, drama.
So I don't know because I don't read the genre.
I guess we could look up what.
But
smut.
my understanding is in the very large genre of romance, there's a spectrum of how explicit it gets. There's what
sexual
on one side there might be what's called like sweet romance, where it's all just like very chaste and fun. There's something called closed door romance, where the understanding is, yes, the characters are having sex, but we're not seeing, the door is closed, right?
Yeah, the book is shut,
right? So like we sort of the hint, or like if you might see in a film, like you see the characters and then then it pans out, so we understand. Oh, okay, but it's not shown explicitly.
Yeah, I've never seen a book or a movie not show the sex. I'm just joking.
And then it gets more explicit from there. And I'm sure, and then
this just says the smut is in books is a term used to describe sexual content that some people may find offensive.
Right.
So the romance novels, I guess, is just the same way, kind of putting it.
Yeah.
So my wife's been reading that because my friend group has also been like, which is our friend group.
Yeah, it's all the
kind
same
of all got. I don't know. They're all into it right now.
Yeah. And I was
maybe they always were, but I feel like they're being more.
Maybe people are just
they're
talking
trading
about
books
it
more. It's at Target apparently. Like every book, every other book at a Target is actually a smut book. Because I went with our friend Sam, friend of the show, and she was like buying books she wanted to get, and I was like, "That's a smut book." All the very colorful, covered books.
And so and that's the thing, and I know, watching the self-publishing scene, I know this is a huge market, because some of these readers are reading 2-3 books a day, and so the demand is just massive.
It's like a podcast for them.
Oh yeah, it's just bow, bow, bow. Especially there are the audiobooks too.
Yeah, they're just running through them.
Yeah. So if I really wanted to make money, this would probably be what I'd be writing.
This smut, yeah.
But every time even if I just joke about this, even if I just joke about writing, romance or erotic novels, my wife just laughs at me. She just laughs. And I'm just
I mean, it is a funny thought.
Okay, well, whatever. Whatever.
I mean, there are many words to describe you, Royce, but
sexual is maybe not one of them.
No, not even just sexual. I mean, yeah, I'm sure you're bringing it. You got children, all that jazz. I mean, just like. It's just
I don't have that. I don't have that passion that sort of
whatever that joie de vivre is.
Yeah, it's not me. I'm a very cerebral person. I get that.
They wouldn't be typecast as that kind of a guy.
Yeah,
like a Johnny Depp-esque.
No.
Yeah.
So I get. Sorry. So not only is that not, I would have to work really hard to understand the genre and write it. But also, I'm not interested.
You'd have to work hard to even understand it.
I mean, I'd have to read, because I'm not familiar with it. I'd have to read the books. I'd have to
pursue it like you did the audiobook. Just do it.
Just jump into it. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Well, I mean, did you feel like you had to research fantasy novels and stuff to get to the one where
because
I read
fantasy novels.
So, you did the research, or quote unquote.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading fantasy and science fiction my whole life.
Yeah, and you consider that the work research.
Yeah, okay. But if this would be, if someone asked me to write a book in a genre that I'd never read, if someone asked me to write an archaeological thriller, I'd be like,
I could do that.
I don't know. So,
yeah,
anyway,
sure. Okay.
But
just curious.
At this point, I'm not interested in enough to explore.
Not even doing a Patreon version of hey, if you want chicks with their tits out, come to my Patreon.
It's such a hard turn because this book is so chaste, right?
There's nothing.
There's
sexual.
a romantic interest, and at the very end they share a hug, and that's as far as it gets.
That was
and that's so that'd be such a hard turn for my audience. I think
I did think the character's reluctance to get in a romantic relationship with him was something that stood out to me. Is that something you didn't want to do in the book? You're like, that's too much of a stereotype or something.
I mean, I did want to push against that a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I felt that.
I knew that, and I feel this way too sometimes. It depends on how it's done. But I've read a lot of other books where people are there was no romance, and I loved that. And I was like, okay, I knew that there was like this would be for someone. But also there's like really practical, complicated reasons
Sure. Yeah. Nothing didn't make sense or
about
anything.
this
It was-
relationship. Right.
Yeah,
And so like I was just trying to write the reality of like they're the only two young people on this moon. Like are they actually friends, or is this just a situation of circumstance?
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I think I don't think either of them knows, you know, and
Oh, maybe I think it becomes clear at the end.
Well,
it is interesting
by
how
the
she
end,
uses she uses her magic a lot in a way that's like unethical.
Yeah.
But she doesn't think about it, you know, because she's always had this, right?
yeah,
Like not brain control, but it does like
she can calm.
yeah,
she
does
has a
this
calming spell. Yeah,
when she's
yeah.
talking to people a lot.
Yeah.
When she's like not getting her way or something, she
Yeah.
goes to that quite a bit.
I think that tells us something about her.
Yeah.
That's interesting because it's
Yeah,
not,
because at first I didn't think about it.
it's not at odds with the rest of
Yeah,
her
yeah.
character, but it does. And I think part of what that is her sort of this larger story of wizards and how they use their power and how they just don't think
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
like,
that's
and
something-
how much power that and this is just kind of a small example of her using her magic in a way to influence others in a way that she doesn't think of as like manipulative, but is kind of part of this larger structure of
Yeah,
wizards being, you know, kind of at the top of the hierarchy in this universe.
Yeah. Supremacist isn't the right word, but they're at the top. You know, like they
I mean,
can influence.
I mean, they the in this. I mean, it's run by
wizard
wizards.
supremacy.
I mean, it's like every planet
interesting.
has a master wizard who is like sort of the de facto governor. You know.
Yeah. Because at first I wasn't clear that Celegrix like is kind of in charge of this whole moon.
Right. Well, so because part of his thing is
he's kind of
he's
doing
has
his
sort
own
of
thing.
abdicated
He's
his
doing his own
power,
thing, yeah.
and look what's happened to the
Yeah,
moon. It's
yeah.
like it's totally desolated, because he's not fulfilling that part of his responsibility
Yeah.
that the system is meant to provide.
Right. Remind me very old school English, you know, kind of like
Exactly.
the Lord takes care of the servants
Exactly.
and then the servants
Yeah.
therefore love the Lord
Yeah.
and take care of him even more.
I was thinking more kind of like colonial. It's the same system, but I was thinking more kind of colonial governorship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this settlement over all these planets and moons, right? And then there's these wizards get sort of installed as the power structure.
Yeah. Some book you encouraged me to read was The Magicians, and I actually read his second book, or this most recent book called The Bright Sword. Have you read that yet?
Oh, I haven't read that yet.
Oh, so good.
Oh, cool.
Okay, well, I'd love to talk to you about that when you do.
check that one
I
out,
enjoyed
yeah.
it quite a bit. King Arthur, but it's like
Oh,
after he's died and like the kind of the remnants of the round table. and
cool.
stuff,
Well,
like
that
how
sounds great.
It's very good. It's very
Cool.
I would love to hear what you have
Yeah.
to think about.
But anyway, but Magicians, to bring it back to Lev Grossman's The Magicians, was a big influence on the way I thought about the magic in this
Okay.
book. Like,
because that's what I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
The magic very structured.
mhm.
Is that important to you? To
it-
like understand how the magic system works?
oh, you think it's very
I thought so. I mean, more than Harry Potter. I thought.
I mean, I feel like my system is very light and very
Okay.
squishy.
No, I didn't feel like it was like oppressively like,
Yeah.
okay, you got to learn all this stuff. But there's like, you know,
'Cause,
when
like-
they're talking about the traveling magic and stuff, there's a lot that goes into it.
For me, like that's part of. I had to explain why, if this magic existed, why
You'd go to school for it.
why people would use spaceships.
Okay.
Like if there's a magic that can make portals from one place to another, and we are traveling by spaceship, like why is that the case? And so I had to make the portal magic so onerous and so complicated. And so it's a storytelling thing of like, and that's kind of her journey of the year,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
learning how to do this magic, and all these different examples of like why it's such a pain
Right.
to do this thing that most people would just throw up their hands as, I'm just going to take a shuttle.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take a spaceship.
Yeah.
So
No, I like that. Yeah.
yeah.
That was just, but I mean, yeah, that's the one that stood out to me. Is like, wow, it's like Royce really thought about this. Because I think about like Avatar and all these fantasy
Mhm,
series. I like, you
mhm.
know, like what, you know, how the magic system is.
Mm-hmm.
I know Brandon Sanderson talks about that quite a bit as well.
Yeah, and I know people are really into that. I
Yeah,
bounce
so-
I bounce really hard off of like deep, detailed magic systems, because I feel like it's like, am I gonna have to remember all this? Like, what am I doing?
Right.
I just want it to like do it. But in this book, I had to kind of get into the weeds of it to explain why people don't use it.
Yeah.
So for me, I sort of felt like I was coming at it the other way. Like, I don't really need to understand exactly how it works. I just need to make it as complicated as possible.
Yeah. Well, I felt that, so it
Good.
worked. Yeah.
Good. Oh, good. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I think that's very interesting. So I was like, this is probably what Royce loves. It's like, because I know you like board games, things like that. So it's like,
it's actually
the rules of the game.
like,
Royce is really
all of those scenes where she's like learning stuff about, like, those were like some of my least. It's like, I'm actually not interested in that. It's those details, right? I had to like come up with all these details, and it's just like, I don't care. Just make it hard and complicated. Like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Because that was the story I was trying to tell.
Yeah.
I didn't set out to like,
portals versus hell gates or whatever. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and then there's because there had to be.
You're so drawn to the occult, Royce. What do you think that is?
I think
because there are demons or devils.
Yeah, there's demons and devils. I think that's probably just me still processing like religious trauma and like working with these symbols and signs that were forbidden from me, and like trying to reclaim them and understand them and make them
and master them.
Or like, and the demons and the devils. I mean, we're talking about stuff that I didn't enjoy writing. I loved writing those devils and demons. I thought they were so funny. This idea of this devil, this head devil, totally admired in like bureaucracy and nepotism and like incompetence.
Yeah,
like he's trying to like
demons
he's like trying to like run this hell world, and it's just like it's not what he wants. I just thought that was hilarious to me. So to take this thing that was like scary and turn it into something funny, I just thought was interesting.
Yeah, it gave me Dune a little bit with like the like I mean, the things from history that you're using to like introduce the chapters in a way.
The little snippets.
Yeah. What would you call those? Or was that kind of?
I've heard them. I called them like quotes. I've heard them called interstitial scenes. Someone called
interstitial
them
makes sense.
Remnants or fragments.
And they remind me of Princess Irulan kind of reading from whatever the books.
Yeah,
the history books or whatever.
And what that was
from Dune. You got to read the book.
There was in any book, there's like a lot of like backstory. There's a lot of like world building.
Yeah, it's a whole world.
Yeah, and they weren't in the earlier drafts, but I realized it was kind of a fun and a more fun and more interesting way to get that information to the reader rather than just saying it. Just be like, oh, what if we had this little quote? And then it kind of went both ways where I was like, and then I could like do a little bit of world building, and like some of the quotes are from characters that are in the book.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good way of world building without doing the whole Tolkien thing. It's a way of cheating at world building.
I was definitely trying to cheat. Yes, I was.
I'm sorry.
I mean, but like really, like
okay, yeah.
It's basically just it's info dumping, but in a fun way.
Yeah.
In a way that feels a little bit more. And then there's sort of the sense of like, it's all these texts, and there's quotes from streamcasts, which is like the world's equivalent of podcasts.
Yeah, I got that one.
And so it's sort of the sense of like, as she's on this year, these are the things maybe Ninian is reading or like hearing. I mean, obviously she doesn't have access to all of them because some of them are secret and are talking about things that she doesn't know about.
Yeah.
But it's just sort of the sense, and it, it's academic, and it's like, all these books and all these little snippets of things that she's thinking about, and just the way to drop information into the world. But they were kind of a pain to write. So I don't know. We'll see if I do it going forward. I haven't decided yet on the next book.
Oh, yeah. But that's a real change up in the format, huh?
Well, I mean, that's the thing about writing a second book. You get to decide what's actually part of the format and what's unique to each book.
Oh, interesting. So yeah.
I have a lot of choices to come up. Anything I do twice, I have to keep doing. So,
well, I always say 3 times a choice, right? Or 3 times a pattern.
Anything that happens once happens only once, but anything that happens twice must happen 3 times.
That's an improv lesson.
That's improv. Yeah. Setting up patterns. Yeah.
Yep. You never stop being my improv teacher. I appreciate that. Bryce taught one of my improv classes. So you got to go way back in the archives.
Well, yeah. That was good times.
Yeah. Did you think I had aptitude for it, or did you just think
oh, absolutely.
I was searching for something?
No, I mean, I think anybody had.
I was your favorite student.
Your class was tricky because it was so small.
Yeah.
And so like
intimate.
Yeah. It was really hard. I feel like sort of maybe 6, maybe 8 is kind of like more the ideal number. And we often had 4 and it was like a weekend. It was just a weird energy. But I remember those classes. But yeah, no, I think everybody can do it. And you obviously had like performance experience and understood, that kind of stuff. So I do want to teach again improv, but I don't know when or where.
Well, I thank you for coming on. I know you got a heart out, so I want to respect your time.
No worries. And thanks for having me on.
No, yeah. Thanks for doing it. Thanks for making an audiobook available I could actually read. Can't wait for you to do it for the last book that you did that you didn't do one for.
Well, when that book republishes, I will do one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, excited to, hear and read what comes next. And, one more time, where can people find you? Where can people find the book?
If you go to ragamancers.com is my main website. And then if you go /OopsWA, that'll have all the links to my book. You can buy it on my website, or you can find the links to other retailers. And you can also check out my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@theragamancers.
All right. Well, I let the guests sign us off however they see fit. Wakanda forever. Be excellent to each other.
And sorry, it's too long to explain. Anyway, stay magic. I don't know. Oops. There we go. Oops. I listened to a podcast.
Ooh, that's good. That's a good name for a podcast.